Hey guys, this is Bales. I'm at FantasyLabs, and I wanted to show you a couple new rules that we've added to the multi lineup tool for NFL. So within player models, after you create a model, you can generate multiple lineups by clicking this button, and it will come to this pop-up where you can select a bunch of different parameters, one of which is a diversification meter, which we just added, which I'll explain in another tutorial. But here on the right hand side in the advanced filters area, we have a few different rules that you can select. Two of them default, and then three new rules that are not default options, but something you might want to do. The first is to not have any skill position players in the same lineup with the opposing defense. Pretty straightforward, almost always recommended. You might not do it in like a prime time slate with only 2 games, and you're just sort of forced to play a defense against a skill player in certain situations, but almost always you're not going to do that. And then to force a quarterback and pass catcher stack, not always going to do this. You can sometimes play, say, Tyrod Taylor, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, those mobile quarterbacks, especially Cam, who can run for touchdowns. Play those guys without a pass catcher, but generally in tournaments, which is the types of leagues you would be entering if you're using a multi-lineup tool, you do want to stack. Third one is to have only one skill player per team outside of your stacks. So, for example, you might not want to play 2 receivers on the same team if you don't have the quarterback from that team. So if you click this, you won't get Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, for example, unless you have David Carr in your lineup as well. And that's really just to make sure that you have the proper correlations in your lineup, and also that you're not really limiting upside when you don't need to be. Only one running back per game. This is a feature that sometimes would be warranted, a lot of times because of game script. Running backs just aren't going to be good plays. The exception would be if you like guys like Theo Riddick, David Johnson. Those big pass catchers can sometimes be better when their teams are down, and so if they're facing off against one another, you might be okay playing those guys in the same lineup. But it is an option if you like say LeGarrette Blount or Jeremy Hill or Jonathan Stewart, some of those guys who don't catch as many passes. And then the final one is more or less what's a game stack. It's to use a wide receiver or tight end on the team opposite from your stack. And the idea is to benefit from game flow, really to benefit from games that are shootouts. So if you think a game is going to be really high scoring, it can make sense to play, a quarterback and 2 of his pass catchers, and then a wide receiver opposite that. Because if that game gets into, if it becomes a shootout, which certain games each week just generally have a much higher probability than others to do that, then you can put yourself in a good spot there. And then, of course, not terribly common, but overtime is a really nice spot, especially with the new overtime rules, where overtimes are just extended longer and longer. And if you have a game stack, even 4 players, 4 or 5 players in a game that goes to overtime, it's a huge potential benefit. So when you do that, if you click that and generate lineups, you'll have the stacks that you get. So this one's Newton and Olsen will have a player opposite in the same game, a pass catcher, wide receiver, or tight end. So those are the new rules. They are especially useful if you are using the player pool option, where you're liking certain players and even creating certain groups, so that okay, I only like these 4 running backs and these 6 receivers, or whatever it is. And so it's very specific types of players, and certain rules might apply that wouldn't otherwise apply to other types of players. So definitely play around with it. There's lots of uses of these types of rules, and in particular the game stack, I think could potentially be a really powerful option to build lineups with correlations to improve the ceiling of your teams.